Hi everyone, it's Dr. Nonnie. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's really good to be here and to see everyone again. And I want to first of all start by thanking God for Johnny Mercies. I went to Nigeria and came back alive. So that's what I think Dr. Ajayi as well went to Nigeria before me. And I've been doing video logs of my journey, so you can always look that up online. And thank you to my new subscribers. It's always lovely to have the support of people subscribing. So thank you very much. So now back in the UK, and I have a very lovely guest, a very special guest tonight. Is Dr. Taiwo Ayodele Ajayi. Dr. Ajayi, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the show.
Yes. So Dr. Ajayi is a consultant psychiatrist. He's a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists here in the UK as well. He's also a pastor. He's a husband and has two adult children. They're now grown up now, so that's lovely. Yes, that's lovely. Apart from that, he really is involved, and his passion is to educate about mental health, particularly, which is his forte, obviously. So he does lots of work as an international speaker on the BBC. He and I did some TV work as well, some radio work in the past. We've worked together, we've collaborated, in different ways. And also, he's also on social media. So he has a YouTube channel, Tripod Care, which I'm a subscriber of. And when it was in its infancy, it has now grown. So that's lovely to see. So well done, doctor. And then, my advice would be, the Bible says that we perish for lack of knowledge. And Christians and Africans in particular, we don't really have knowledge on mental health issues. And I really want to advise you to join his channel. We're going to put all his information and his detailed bio, all the things that he does, to see which of them takes your fancy in the description. But please just look up, because even if you're a doctor yourself, he is a consultant psychiatrist. So you can use this for CPD points. I know I've used his lecture. Even from Canada, I log in and I've used it for my CPD because you can learn so much from him. He's such a humble man and he's very experienced. So once again, Dr. Ajayi, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on the program again, Dr. Nonnie, and thank you for the gift of friendship and the gift of being a great colleague. That's much
Thank you very much.
appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So without any further ado, because we have a lot to cover, we're going to be talking today on personality disorders. This is a very, very important topic, and it's not something that I as a GP can do justice to because it's a specialist area, which is why we've gotten Dr. Taiwo to give us the expertise. So Dr. Ajayi, if you don't mind, just tell us, what is the personality disorder, please?
All right. Okay. So I think that's a very relevant question. And a personality disorder in layman terms is when somebody's personality is such that they it causes them friction with other people. It causes them friction with society, and it's such that sometimes it even causes them friction with themselves. Personality disorder usually starts very earlier on in life, in terms of either late in adolescence or very early adult life. Usually, very early adult life, it's well established. But the other thing that we do know of personality disorders is that it spreads. It's not just in one domain of life where somebody has problems. So somebody will have problems with relationships at home, with family, at work, in their career, in community. So it's not just in one domain. So it doesn't become a personality disorder until it spreads across different contexts of the person's life. And it's almost the same pattern of problems that person has.
Oh, well, that's quite interesting because I was thinking about that today. If, for example, I have a problem in my home and I don't have a problem at work, do I have a personality disorder then?
So usually with personality disorder, you'll find out that it's in different domains. It's almost all the domains of life that the problems will play out, and it's usually about interpersonal relationship difficulties. It's also about relationship with self, because sometimes, particularly in our Black communities, we know a lot about relationships with others, but we forget the fact that one of the key relationships is that if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's difficult to have a good relationship with other people, because you've got to know who you are bringing to the table in order to be able to interact with other people well.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't actually think of it that way. You're right. We should know ourselves. Okay, so I mean, for my own limited knowledge of this ICD class, there are about 9 of them, aren't there? 9 different personality disorders, aren't there?
Yeah, so it depends on which of the diagnostic of formulations you are using. There's DSM, and then there's the ICD-10. and the ICD-10, and there's the ICD-11 as well, which uses a very different nomenclature completely. A lot of people are still very familiar with the ICD-10 because that's what's been around for a long time. It was around for about 30 years before it was it was modified. So it depends on which nomenclature you are using.
Okay, so in that case, so we know there are many, but for the sake of this video, the one that my viewers wanted to learn about is narcissism. So over to you, doctor. Spill the beans.
Right.
Tell us more.
Right. Okay. So the first thing about narcissism is that it derives from the medical term for narcissism would be narcissistic personality disorder, because you've said about personality disorder. So let's think about narcissism, but in the context of what a personality disorder is, which I have initially spoken about. And that word narcissism actually it comes from the Greek word narcissus. Narcissus was believed to be, in Greek mythology, was believed to be a hunter who was the son of the god of the river god. And what had happened to Narcissus was that he was so in love with himself. He was so taken by his own beauty, they say, that he kept staring at his own reflection in the mirror in the river, to the point in which he just faded away progressively till he died.
Oh dear.
And that just, I think it paints a picture of what narcissistic personality is about, how much self-absorbed that a narcissist can be. So basically, in a narcissistic personality disorder, there are 9 features according to the DSM diagnostic. The DSM is like the Bible of psychiatry. That's what the Americans use in making a diagnosis. Over here, we use the ICD-10. But however, there are 9 features that are described by the DSM. And they usually say that you need at least 5 of those in order to meet that criteria. Please stop me at any time if you need to.
Oh no, I'm enjoying this. Keep going. Tell us
okay.
tell us the 9.
Okay. So out of those 9, if somebody has 5 of them, then one meets a criteria for a diagnosis of a narcissistic personality disorder. If one doesn't meet meet up to 5, then one can talk about traits. So there's a disorder which and of course a disorder is more problematic. It's more problematic in the function of that person than the traits are. So the first thing is about grandiose sense of self-importance. You know, that person, they arrogate more importance to themselves than the evidence actually supports. So they carry themselves in a way that their sense of importance, their sense of wealth, their sense of well-being, their sense of success, their sense of achievement does not match what is in reality, keeping with reality. That's one. The other thing is that they have frequent fantasies about having or deserving wealth, success, or importance or clout. So they also fantasize about their own well-being, about their own sense of importance, and about their own achievements. So that's another one. The other one is they believe in their superiority. So the way they carry themselves, they almost relate to other people like everyone is beneath them. So there's that sense of superiority. And just to say that this narcissistic personality disorder is actually a mental illness. It's a mental disorder. It's important to put that in perspective. So it's not just somebody who is trying to be arrogant or proud. It's actually a mental
I was
disorder.
thinking about that because it sounds like maybe someone who is very overconfident, so it's not that, is it?
It's more than that. Because when we come to the causes of how somebody can become like that, we'll see where the problem comes from. So they have a belief in their own superiority. And the other thing is that they have a very damaging need to be admired. It's almost like they are absorbed in their own self-importance, but you also need to be like that. You also need to admire them. And if you don't admire them that way, then there are problems. They fall out with you, and they can things can become, there can be a friction, and they can lash out in different ways if they don't feel that and they would actually put themselves in situations where they are admired, where they are applauded, because that's what fits their ego and makes them feel complete in some way. In addition to that, there's a sense of entitlement when somebody almost feels like they deserve to be treated in a particular way, in a special way. And unfortunately, the key things about somebody with a narcissistic personality is that, one, the relationship they have with themselves is not based on reality, but also the relationship that they have with other people makes them lack empathy, almost like a disregard for the feelings of other people. So the way that manifests out of all those 9 features is that there's a willingness to exploit other people. So they will sometimes get into friendships because with people who are lofty in society, with people who have means, with people who have clout, with people who are successful. And the reason is because they want to use those people. Either they want to be able to name drop, or they want to be able to use those people to climb up the social ladder. So all of those things, so that there's that willingness to really to exploit other people, and so sometimes to manipulate them. And people who are in intimate relationship with them, people who are their spouses or people who are their children, can be a victim of that. Because, like I said, they have a lack of regard for and lack of empathy for the feeling of others. So they will use, if anything will bring them admiration, if anything is going to massage that certain of self-importance, they will neglect other people in their lives and neglect other things in order to be able to meet that need. And of course, the lack of empathy, which we talked about, and then frequent envy as well. And that's 2 prongs. One, they envy others whom they feel are in that type of status that they want to be. But also, sometimes they feel that they are the subject of envy, which is in keeping with their own self-importance. And the other one is arrogant behavior, in which they just really parade themselves in a very condescending way to other people. So out of those 9, if somebody has 5, ticks 5 boxes, then one is the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder.
You mentioned 9 because I was counting 6. Have you done all 9?
Oh, right, yes. So there's a grandiose sense of self-importance, frequent fantasies about having or deserving wealth and success. They believe in superiority, in their own superiority.
That's different to the grandiosity.
Yes, it's different. Because so I believe that I'm superior. So it's not just that I'm grandiose, I'm high, but I'm also superior to you. There's a difference between I'm high, I'm lofty, but that I'm actually better than you. There's a difference. It's a different level of. And then the need for admiration. They always need to be admired. Entitlement. Because I'm now superior to you, there are certain things I need to be treated special at all times. Whatever I ask of you, you need to do. In a marital relationship, you've got to be subservient to my needs. My needs is priority to it's superior to every other need. And willingness to use others or to exploit others. That's number 8. No, that's number 6. And then a lack of empathy for others.
Yes, you mentioned
frequent
that.
Envy, and then arrogance.
Okay, I'm sure this is getting really interesting. So now, because I'm thinking about this seems to overlie with even bipolar, doesn't it? And even some of the autistic spectrum disease, doesn't it? It seems to overlie with some of the traits you would find in patients or people with those sort of conditions as well.
That's a very interesting observation, and the reason, obviously, being a GP, you come across these things very frequently. The reason I say it's an interesting observation is because there are certain conditions, mental conditions that are commoner in people with narcissistic personality disorder. And one of them is anxiety, one of them is depression. We also know that bipolar disorders, that's which used to be called manic depressive illness, is also commoner in people with bipolar disorder, in people with narcissistic personality disorder. So is substance misuse problems, alcohol abuse. All of those things are commoner. And of course, there are two other personality disorders: borderline personality, or what is called emotionally unstable, and sometimes colloquially and irreverentially, people also refer to it's called split personality disorder, which is not a term that I support. So antisocial personality.
I missed that one, but what was that word you used?
Split personality.
Split personality. But that's not medical, though, is it?
Sorry, that's.
Is it a medical diagnosis?
It's not. So that's what I'm saying. That it's not a medical term, but people with borderline personality is what people on the street usually refer to it. It's
Oh,
not,
I see. That's
but it's
okay.
very pejorative, so it's not something that I really support.
Right, right. Wow, okay. So I think from what you're saying, I'm a bit over. I mean, it's a lot to take
It
in.
is.
So I would imagine that diagnosing, because I remember when I was doing my psychiatry post, how many years ago, personality disorder was always quite hard to diagnose
Yeah.
because you take a history and like, is it or isn't it? It was
Yeah.
quite tricky.
Yeah.
So I mean, how would you diagnose it then in a patient, or if you suspected maybe you're someone is narcissistic, what can one do?
Yeah. So that's a very good question because it's really the people who are nearest and dearest to them
Hmm.
that's first flag it up. Because one of the other challenges with narcissistic personality disorder, particularly, is that awareness is usually very limited, and that's why uh, a lot of them don't seek help because you are the problem. I'm not the problem.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
part of the things that they use in coping is gaslighting, manipulation. So they will make you doubt yourself, twist things,
Hmm.
and control
Hmm.
people. So it's every other person has a problem except that person, and
Except that person.
that's part of the condition. So it's very difficult to diagnose. You are right, but one of the ways that one can do it, very rarely do people with narcissistic personality come forward to ask for help. Because
Hmm.
from all those pictures, obviously, if I'm special, I'm entitled. I'm probably not going to come to common doctor like you to come and diagnose me. I know I have a problem. So the way it works is that, uh, but it's their family, usually spouses, particularly children, parents, brothers, sisters, or maybe close work colleagues are the ones that really pick up that there's something not quite right. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, many times those there's no agreement in terms of I have a problem, I need help. So
Hmm.
you are right that sometimes the other way we make a firm diagnosis is to gather information from what we call collateral information, as
That's
you know,
all. Yeah.
speaking to family members and speaking to friends and people who know them well.
Hmm. Now, in terms of etiology, I mean, who is this common? Is this something that affects particular races or particular gender? You said it starts from was it early
So
adulthood?
very early adulthood, yeah. So
Hmm.
that's also a very interesting question because there is no one single thing that causes narcissistic personality, but we know there are associated traits. For instance, we do know that it runs in families.
Oh dear.
So there's a genetic aspect to it. That's one. But
Hmm.
it's not just one thing. Like I said, there are a number of things that connive together to then make that person. The other thing is that it's also about modeling. So if somebody has a close member of the family that they look up to or that they've associated with in their childhood, who has that condition, because children learn the best by observing the adults that are important to them in their lives. That can also be that person can also be at risk in terms of modeling somebody's behavior. The other thing that we do know is that also children who have experienced adverse childhood experiences in terms of trauma,
Hmm.
rejection, lack of support, or they've been abused, they also carry a greater risk of having narcissistic personalities. And at this point, I just want to drop this in because I think that this is one of my pet quotes. And usually, when I talk about mental health, I think it's a disservice if I don't say it. One of the very leading trauma experts in the world, Dr. Van Kolk, he says, Branda Kolk, he says that the parent-child connection the most important mental intervention known to mankind.
Wow.
The parent-child connection is the most important mental health intervention known to mankind. So I'm sure that there are probably other parents who are looking at us as we are parents ourselves. And the message is that really those children that are in our homes will really hold a crucial key to their mental well-being, not only for now, but for the future. So
Hmm.
when we are raising ladies, when we are raising young men, we are actually raising them for other people. And we need to be mindful that the way we raise them can actually have the impact on, it can damage them for a very, very long time to come.
Yes, because I know you also do a lot of work with the youth where you wouldn't let me in. You said I'm too old.
You are not a Gen Z and you are not a millennial.
I'm not a Gen Z. Yes, thank you. And you do a lot of work with them. I mean, I'm just so is this commoner in men or women, would you say, or is it about the same? Can women be
So,
narcissists, basically?
so a woman can be a narcissist as well, can have narcissistic personality disorder, but we do know that it's a lot commoner in men. It's
Mm,
almost double the number in men, I mean, incidence in men than women. And overall, the prevalence is about 0.5% of the population to less than 10%. So
mhm.
yeah, so it's less than 10% of the population, but the challenges that people with narcissists bring to our world can be very difficult to deal with, such that even though it's not a large population, it's still quite problematic in society.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I know people who've been in relationships and, felt that the other party was narcissistic. And I mean, in that kind of case, just talk to that person. How do they survive? I mean,
Yeah,
we're talking about childhood trauma, early
yeah, yeah.
adulthood, you know, can this be cured, doctor? Is there hope?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that my heart goes out to anyone who is in a relationship with a narcissist, that narcissist or somebody that, yeah, let's use the, the technical terms, narcissistic personality disorder. And the reason is because they are really, they are going, they are victims of abuse every single day. All those encounters are abusive encounters. And so my heart goes out to them because I can imagine how traumatic that can be.
Mm.
The typical cycle for somebody who is in a love relationship with uh, somebody who is narcissistic is this. One, there's idealization, or what's in colloquial Gen Z millennial terms is called love bombing, where it's
What?
almost
What,
love,
sir?
like bombing somebody, love bombing.
Oh, love bombing.
Yeah,
Oh, I
so, yeah,
see.
love
Okay.
bombing. Yeah. So
You can tell I'm not a Gen Z. Go on.
don't worry, we are catching up.
Yeah, we have to learn, right? Okay.
So love bombing is really when you meet this guy, and he's the most charming, prince charming you've ever met in your life. They
Hmm.
spoil you with gifts, romantic, the destination, holidays, and for the first week, month, year, usually it doesn't go more than a year. You think,
Hmm.
oh wow, I'm so blessed. I've met the man of my
Hmm.
dreams because there's so much in your face and they're larger than life, and they just make you. That's a period of idealization.
Right.
But very quickly, that then moves on to devaluing,
Oh dear.
where they begin to put that love object down and they begin to manipulate the person. They begin to play mind games, gaslighting,
Hmm.
and the other thing that is common, there's also a term for it, is ghosting, where they just appear for one moment and then they just disappear for no apparent
Hmm.
reason and they come into your life again. It's almost like they're just playing with your mind.
Hmm.
Um, and that also happens where, so that's the period of devaluing, and the final period is discarding.
Right.
Because the way that people with narcissistic personality disorder treat people who are close to them is almost like they use them as objects to fulfill their own desire to be admired, their own desire.
Right.
So it's almost a use of human beings to exploit human beings to feed their own egos. And sometimes there's a need for novelty. So it's IDD, idealization, devaluing, and then discarding. Discarding is simply they will sabotage the relationship. Either they walk away or they push the person. It's almost better if they push the person to walk away, because at least, because sometimes as well what narcissistic personalities do is that they don't even allow the person to walk away without a fight.
Hmm. Wow. So talk to that person who is in this relationship. So say the walking away part, if there's already a marriage covenant, we're Christians as your pastor as well, so you know about this sort of thing. What can this person do?
Yes. So that's a very tricky question to answer, because of all the things we cited. I think that in reality, it's important to bear in mind that for somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, there is nothing we can do to change them.
Really?
And in terms of they've got to be willing to come to the acceptance that I've got a problem and I need help. And that's not a decision that any wife or any husband can make for me. It's got to be, I have to make that decision. And sadly, I say this with all caution, being, as you say, always being a pastor myself and being careful, that sometimes unfortunately, the only thing that they can do when they've tried all they can do in order to save their own lives, in order to save their own sanity and remain sane, is geographical relocation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
And I after, but it's got to be after all, as in all avenues have been explored.
Yeah. What about, because I'm being told by our manager, we only have a few minutes left, but just what about children in a relationship where there's been narcissism? What can you suggest?
So I think it's important for the other party in that relationship, the person who is the victim in that relationship, to take care of their children. And so part of the things might be that those children might also need to have therapy. They might need to have counseling. But that person as well who is the victim also needs some help themselves. One, they need to have very clear boundaries in their lives. People who are narcissistic personality want to be drama. They get involved in a lot of drama. And what you need to do is to make sure that I'm not going to play the drama, because you cannot win when you get involved in the drama with somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. You cannot win. So there's no point playing the day. And part of the boundaries is, do I want to be speaking to this person on the phone? Do I want to be sending them voice messages? Do I want to be sending them text messages? Do I want to be seeing them physically, face to face? Which one works for my own sanity? And the other thing is that also that person may need to get help themselves in terms of getting professional help. And sadly, sometimes the only way that they can remain sane themselves, remain not broken, remain not battered emotionally, is to make a decision at some point to walk.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Doctor. I mean, you really, given us lots to think about, lots to, ponder on, and, probably a way out. I think most of the people who wanted to know was why this happened. You've explained that. What is the cure? Well, it seems like there isn't much out there. It's just therapy, counseling, and self-protection, right? You just have to yourself. And so if you're in a relationship, this is me just rounding up now. If you're in a relationship and this narcissistic traits, the good doctor has highlighted 5 of them out of the 9, you can play the video back a couple of times. If you notice this in your partner and you sort of try and maybe make them share the video with them, see they're open to help, then obviously then please get help. But if not, I think my advice would be that you should just protect yourself, because you have to be alive, you have to be sane, you got to live your own life as well. So without any further ado, I'm just going to say thank you so much, Dr. Ajayi. This has been such a lovely discussion. I really enjoyed it. And I really thank you for fitting me into your very busy diary. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for the great job that you have been.
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate that. And so till next time, I just want to say goodbye. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We really need to get this kind of information out to other people so that people are aware of this. Many people are suffering, both in our community and the wider communities as well. And also don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Ajayi's YouTube channel. And I'll put all his details, his Instagram and all his things he's up to in the description, so you can take part as well and join him and learn more. Just learn more and obviously watch previous channels. So thank you very much, everyone. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.